Good afternoon, Israel Briefers. Welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where I bring you the top stories from Israel every Monday to Thursday. Now, I am looking at making some changes to the channel as it starts to grow. Maybe some more content offering, maybe a different look. So, guys, bear with me. I will still be bringing you the news, but I want to give you more. I want to just give you guys more. So if you have any ideas, and there have been quite a few coming in, I would love to hear them. But in the meantime, you join me every Monday to Thursday to take a look at those top stories making the headlines in Israel. The stories you are guaranteed never to hear on Sky News and BBC and CNN and NPR and all those channels that just have a massive issue. Now, it is unbelievably hot here today. I had to take a break from sitting in the fridge to recording, but you guys are absolutely worth it. And a reminder, it is day 676 since the 7th of October. This is your daily reminder that we still have 50 hostages held in captivity in absolute inhumane conditions in the Gaza Strip. We believe at least 20 to still be alive, including Nepalese national Bipin Joshi. Now, we haven't received any signs of life for Bipin, but his family arrived from Nepal just a few days ago. This is their first visit to Israel, and they want to appeal to you. They say, we feel in our hearts that Bipin is still alive, despite no signs of life. Please continue to do everything you can to speak for him and to call for his immediate release. We also cannot forget that Hamas and other terrorist organizations are still holding the remains of 30 hostages. One of those hostages, Hadar Golden, was killed in Operation Protective Edge in 2014. His remains have been held inhumanely for over 4,000 days. The other remains that Hamas and terror organizations are holding are those that they killed on the 7th of October or who have been murdered in captivity. It is part of our psyche, it is part of our morals and ethics as a country that no person is ever left behind. We want to bring home every single hostage, the living and the dead. The living to start that very, 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 very long rehabilitation process, especially given the conditions that we know that they are in, and the dead to be laid to rest with the dignity that they and their families deserve. So guys, let's take a look at those top stories. Before we do though, just a reminder that if you have a question that you would like answered on the Israel Brief, please be in touch via our social media or via our website. We have quite a few this week for me to deal with. So guys, keep them coming. And a reminder that Thursday is Mentions and Morons Day, and get those nominations coming through to me so that I can bring you your mentions and your morons of the week. So let's start at the top, and this is the question that people have been asking. Does Israel intentionally kill journalists? Well, the reason I'm asking that is because we've had such a massive global outcry over a strike conducted by the IDF yesterday that killed an Al Jazeera journalist by the name of Anal Muhammad al-Sharif. Now, who was he? I mean, you know, anyone can strap a press vest and go off and say that they are press. But who was Anal? So the IDF released some of the intelligence that they had found on him, including the fact that he was on the Hamas payroll. Now, it's important to understand that journalists in Gaza that are operating, Palestinian journalists, do so at the discretion or at the, I don't even know what the right word for it is, but do so at the behest of Hamas. If they go against the Hamas party line, they are often tortured and killed and their families threatened. those that bring you the news out of Gaza and broadcast to Al Jazeera, who we know is in cahoots and is basically a stenographer for Hamas, are on the Hamas payroll. Not only was he on the Hamas payroll, but he was also a cell leader for a Hamas cell responsible for firing rockets towards Israeli civilians. That makes him a legitimate terror target. He also celebrated the 7th of October, putting on his Telegram channel that it is now 9 hours into the day and the heroes are still running around Israel killing people. He also shared a picture, we don't know if it's him or one of the Hamas terrorists, stomping on the body of a murdered IDF soldier. And to add even more evidence to that has already been released, the IDF's Arabic spokesperson released a picture of said journalist hugging the mastermind of the 7th of October attacks, Yahya Sinwar. So if you do the maths, and I'm not good at maths, but I think this is pretty obvious, he ain't no journalist. He's a member of Hamas and therefore was a legitimate target. Now, of course, we've heard from many of my colleagues in the field of journalism, especially from CNN and Sky News and Al Jazeera, and everybody all up in arms about the murder, they say, of a terrorist, or in their words, a journalist. Well, to understand where we sit with the mainstream media today, the head of the Foreign Press Association was interviewed by CNN, and on CNN he said, quite frankly, I don't care if he was a member of Hamas. Well, it's official. This is why people come to places like the Israel Brief for their news and have stopped going to the legacy media. You guys are stenographers for terrorists. And you know what? People like me and many in my field are going to call you out. Often at great pains to ourselves and our careers, but we're not going to stop because you, the listeners, the viewers, you deserve the truth. Yesterday I brought you the story that on the 17th of August, which is this Sunday, there will be a strike in Israel. This is in objection to Prime Minister Netanyahu's plans to occupy Gaza, albeit temporary. Now, the country's biggest union, the Histadrut, have said that they will not be joining the strike, but the Hostages Forum released a statement earlier today. They will be joining along with the legal bar who have given their sanction to the strike. Tech companies will join in the strike, universities will join in the strike, and municipalities will also join in the general strike. Now, today, retired Air Force personnel as well as retired pilots are demonstrating outside the headquarters of the IDF in Tel Aviv, calling for an end to the war. So as you can see, you know, a lot of people have said, is this good for Israel's image that you've got members of the army disagreeing with members of the government? But, you know, at the end of the day, this is democracy. This is how Israel's democracy thrives. And this is how we welcome a variety of different opinions. Obviously, at the end of the day, the army has to do what the government says, but they are also entitled to their professional opinion. And Israel, this is what you are seeing, is our democratic values in action. According to Saudi television station Al Arabiya, according to their sources, Hamas has gone to Cairo in Egypt, or a delegation has gone to Cairo in Egypt to meet with Palestinian factions and with hostage and / ceasefire negotiators to see if they can come up with some kind of a proposal. Now, this is very interesting because the Western world is all up in arms. But obviously, the Prime Minister's threat to come into Gaza, to the last Hamas strongholds of Gaza City and Deir al-Bala, has frightened Hamas. when President Macron announced that he would be recognizing the non-existent state of Palestine, Hamas pulled out of the ceasefire, saying basically, well, why enter into negotiations when Western countries are recognizing us? These are the fruits of the 7th of October. Well, obviously, they are running scared. And maybe this was Prime Minister Netanyahu's plan all along, is he knows how to speak Arabic. And this is what we are seeing at the moment. So Hamas have gone to Cairo. They have sent a delegation, and the Egyptians have advised them, do not take unbalanced positions. In other words, don't come with anything super ridiculous, like you did the last time, that got Israel and the Americans to walk away and put up our backs as the Egyptians and Qataris. Come with reasonable positions. So let's watch the space, guys. And finally, let's end on a wonderful note. I love this. In fact, this brought me to tears. And this was the wedding last Thursday of Shir Siegel. Shir is the daughter of released hostages Aviva Siegel, who was released in November 2023, and Keith Siegel, who was released, I think it's the end of January or February this year. She said her victory would be to have both her parents under the chuppah, under the wedding canopy, and this happened last Thursday in the presence of other former hostages. Shir and the whole family, we wish you mazal tov, a lifetime of simchot, of celebration, of naches, of love, and just may you go from strength to strength. And from all of us here to your family, we just send our biggest love, congratulations, and a huge hearty mazal tov. Right, so let's get to the audience question of the day, and it comes from Stephen Spinellis, and it's very interesting, and it's probably based, Stephen, am I right, on Prime Minister Netanyahu's comments that Israel is investigating whether or not we can sue the New York Times as a country. So Stephen asks, can Israel sue individual journalists? Well, this is interesting because it is quite difficult to sue journalists in their individual capacity as a state. There have been cases where you can sue for defamation, but they are very difficult to prove. However, if the journalist puts something out that says that presents a risk to national security, you have more of a case, albeit a very difficult bar to prove. So in other words, you have to come with an immense amount of evidence, and you have to prove that whatever this journalist has put out, that it is a risk to that country's national security. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the New York Times, and if Israel can bring a case, and how Israel will prove that what the New York Times put out by putting out pictures of children with congenital diseases and passing that off as a policy of mass starvation, which is a blood libel and certainly defamatory, but is it a threat to national security? You guys can bet your bottom dollar we're going to follow this closely. So guys, that's it from me for today. If you like this content, we really want to grow our community. Please like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at The Israel Brief, our websites at layoftheland.online. We're on Facebook at Lottel Site, on Instagram at Raleen_Marks, on LinkedIn at Raleen Marks, and on X at Lay of the Land 5. Guys, God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow for another edition of The Israel Brief. Bye for now.